It's time to sit back and check out the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your hosts, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Hey, good kind people, what is up? You're checking out episode number 1000 of the RCWR show with Lee Sanders, covering the latest in wrestling, entertainment, and beyond since 2011. Here we are for this Monday night of February 6, 2023. Hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. If you were a wrestling fan, hey, you know about the NXT Vengeance Day event that had came about. So hopefully you guys had checked that out. If you haven't checked out NXT in a while and maybe you want to get an idea on some of the things if you missed, and maybe if you should start checking out NXT again on the regular, you'll definitely find my Vengeance Day pay-per-view post-show most helpful. So if you haven't checked it out yet, do check it out when you get a chance. It's available in video format on demand and definitely on the downloads for you audio listeners out there. Hey, hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. Here we are. It is Super Bowl week. It is going down this weekend, man. I hope you guys are ready. I'll definitely get into Super Bowl predictions on Wednesday's show for you guys, but I'm definitely excited for the game itself. That should be a very entertaining. That I'm telling you right now, I will give you just a little bit of a preview. I think it's going to come down to defense. Honestly, because, and I'm not just saying that as a cliche, but I have been paying very close attention to the Kansas Chiefs defense all season long, as well as the Eagles defense all season long. And I'm telling you, those are not the ones to be trifled with. Those guys definitely, if you got some weaknesses on your offense, those respected teams, as far as their defenses go, they are going to expose like a mofo. Let me tell you, they're definitely going to expose. Taking it easy this week. No poll I'm putting out there wanting to know what you guys had thought about WWE RAW. I thought, honestly, overall, major thumbs up in so many areas, which we'll talk about in just a hot minute. Hey, before we go any further into the show, though, I definitely want to take this time out and I want to extend my heartfelt thoughts, prayers, and condolences to those that have been affected by the Syria earthquake that went down apparently. And I mean, the numbers, they just keep going up. It's freaking ridiculous. What started off as some people were hearing, just when it initially first started, some people were hearing, oh, 10, 12, 20 people, and then the number just started to rapidly climb as this powerful earthquake that had a 7.8 magnitude, aftershocks and all of that. This rocked not just Turkey, but it also rocked Syria, and so far it's amazing how much an hour difference can make, because an hour ago you're hearing a little over 3,000 fatalities. Now it's up to over 4,000, almost 500 fatalities, and I would not be surprised if before the end of this live broadcast streaming right now, 15 minutes past 11 p.m. on the East Coast, I wouldn't be surprised if it almost got up to 5,000 or past 5,000. So definitely thoughts, prayers, condolences to those that have been affected by this devastating earthquake in parts of Syria and Turkey. That is just, whoa, I mean, seriously. And yeah, I definitely home in on these respected regions, because even all the way up to now, whenever I go back and I check out the downloads for the podcast, as far as, you know, different regions go that's representing, checking out the shows, Turkey, Syria is always in there. Believe it or not, they are always in there. Make no mistake about it. You know, we are a United States show. You know, we are a United States-based podcast. But as far as overseas goes, since I've been at this, Turkey, Syria, Afghanistan, even they definitely have always represented. Ireland, they've always represented and shown love, checking out the shows and everything. And I can just, you know, to hear that, I cannot relate to that by any stretch. I remember I lived in California for about 2 years. I was there during the riots, and I definitely remember experiencing probably 2 earthquakes the entire time I was there, if not 3 max. But one of them was definitely, whew, I mean, dishes were coming out of the cabinets. Dish rack that was on the counter, that fell off the counter. TV that was on a nightstand that moved. I mean, there was a whole lot of moving and all of that was going on. I mean, it wasn't nowhere near as bad as what the folks in Turkey and Syria experienced, not by any stretch, to the point I don't even recall, when I think about it, I don't even recall when I was checking out the news the next day in Cali to find out the damage assessment. As far as fatalities go, I don't remember hearing anything about fatalities. If there happened to been fatalities, it was a very low number, most likely under 10, but there was a lot of property damage that was done to those areas affected the most, that were pretty much at the core central point of where the earthquake had went down. And I just remember that experience alone. It had my family decide, okay, you know what, we got to make sure that wherever we decide we want to go live, we try to do our best to make sure that we're like nowhere near a earthquake, right? Don't want to be living in an area where got to worry about flooding, got to worry about earthquakes left and right, got to worry about a tropical storm, got to worry about a hurricane. Wanted to try to do everything in their power to dodge all that, and knock on wood, since coming to the DC metropolitan area so many years back, knocking on wood, haven't dealt with any of those things. So yeah, so that's that. I know without a shadow of a doubt the president had probably said a little something during his State of the Union address. I know he did that later tonight. I know probably a decent amount of you guys probably didn't even check that out, tune in. I didn't as well. I did not tune in to that as well. Hey, coming off of a weekend, just kind of lighten the mood up a little bit, take some of y'all's minds off of some of that stuff that's happening overseas and everything. It's hard to believe, but 50 years of hip-hop. Can you believe that? 50 years of hip-hop. That is just mind-boggling when I freaking hear that. 50 years. I'm in my 40s, and I'm going, wow, we're already on 50 years of hip-hop? You know, 50 years. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, yet at the same time, you're just reminded how wasn't that long ago that hip-hop was born. And I did see little bits and pieces of the Grammys that came out from the weekend. I actually have Paramount Plus, so I'm gonna when I get a free moment, I'm actually gonna just watch it in its entirety. I don't know. I see some people were kind of complaining at some parts, but I do definitely want to watch for seeing all those great hip-hop legends. Jay-Z, I think, who else was in there? Busta Rhymes. I saw a little bit of what Busta Rhymes was doing in there. I think Missy Elliott made an appearance as well. I can't wait to see all of that, just the who's who, all the music that I grew up with back in the day and everything representing. I heard Trevor Noah did pretty good as the host, so looking forward to that. I think honestly for them to go with Trevor Noah, good. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But yeah, Grammys was this weekend. Do we really need, let me ask you guys, do we really need 3.5 hours for an event such as that? Do we really need, I mean seriously, 3.5 hours? That is just mind-boggling to hear that. I'm very curious how the ratings did. I don't know if the ratings are out right now, but I'll definitely talk more about my thoughts on the Grammys overall, what's working, what needs to get some tweaking, and all of that in between when we approach it again on Wednesday show. But I did happen to see the video clip that's running around of Ben Affleck, who looks like he would rather be doing any and everything else but frickin' be at the Grammys. Particularly, he would rather be doing any and everything else but listening to rap music. Poor Ben Affleck. My man looked miserable like a mofo, man. I mean, seriously, you got to see it. If you haven't seen it yet, just go on the Facebook page at the RCWR show. Check it out when you guys get a chance. Some funny ass stuff right there. So for some of you guys that's trickling on in and maybe you're checking out the title of this episode, you're seeing something about Lita. You are correct, my friend. You are reading it right. WWE Hall of Famer Lita from Team Extreme back in the day. The beautiful, the lovely Lita. 47-year-old or young Lita, she's going to be 48 this April, made her return to WWE RAW tonight, just WWE in general. And it's interesting because you think about a couple of weeks ago, what was it, 2 weeks ago, you heard the rumblings that Lita was apparently backstage at Raw 30, and for whatever respected reasons, they did not use Lita. She was nowhere to be found in any special segment for the women, highlighting the evolution of women's wrestling during the 30 years of Raw. Raw's, top 30 moments in the 30 years for women doing their thing in segments or wrestling or, key figures. None of that. Lita was nowhere to be found. You did get a little bit of a video package here and there. You did get a nod here and there for her. I actually remember Edge and Lita spot. I believe I'm thinking about the infamous live sex on the air segment between those two. I believe they did that. By the way, anybody else love the fact that in regards to Lita and all that, the way everything was booked? I mean, we made sure we got Edge and Beth Phoenix. We made sure we got that out the way. And then way later on, look, I'm not trying to make something out of nothing. I'm just saying, whoever thought they did it right, okay? All things considered and all that. I would imagine they all get along pretty well now and everything, though, right? I would imagine bygones are bygones and everything. But yeah, Lita making her return tonight on WWE Raw in a very pivotal moment that just has you going, yo, what's going on here and everything, as she made her presence felt in the main event match between Bayley and Becky Lynch. It was the steel cage match that we desperately wanted to see 2 weeks ago on Raw 30, but we did not get it, which we talked about at great length and everything, so no reason to rehash that once again. But The match itself between Bayley and Becky Lynch. I'm just trying to go, I'm going back and forth. Did it live up to the expectations? I think is the one question that would have to be addressed. So for those of you that have Raw on your DVR, you didn't check it out yet, you're going to be checking it out once you get home from work or whatever, next free day you get. I'm going to say no, it did not live up to the expectations that I personally thought. For me, just, okay, Becky Lynch, Bayley, steel cage match. Yeah, this should be an absolute freaking solid match. This should be a classic encounter. This should be one where I'm going easily a 4-star out of 5-star match. Easily. Is that what we got when it was all said and done? I would have to say no. I would have to say no. It was more like a 3-star level match for all intents and purposes. It's kind of weird. It really is kind of weird because on the one hand, you could make an argument, we really should have gotten this match on Raw 30. Because maybe you could make an argument that had we got the match on Raw 30, maybe our perceptions of the match, like if you were to tell me, Lee, what these girls did tonight, had they done it 2 weeks ago, it literally would have been what you saw play out tonight. Maybe because of the whole Raw 30 umbrella, maybe myself and others would have looked at this match in a higher regard, in a brighter light. But if I were a betting man, no, I think I would still feel the same. I think if I were to see exactly this match 2 weeks ago on Raw 30, I think I would have said, no, this gets a 3 out of 5 rating. Yeah, it's really, really weird. It's really, really weird. I appreciate the fact that they tried to build up this great animosity and everything that was just going about because of these two. And I really did not feel, just based on everything that was built up, laid out so beautifully last week. I mean, they really took this rivalry to a whole nother level with that promo from last week, and with Bayley saying what she was saying to Becky. That is just, okay, you know what, I'm not even going to wait for the bell to ring. I am just going to, when I get my hands on you and I get the opportunity, I am going to seriously F you up, all right? I'm going to F you up. I'm going to F you up real good, okay? And you didn't really get that in this. It's kind of sad, too, because on the one hand, you're going, okay, I can tell both of these girls are putting in a really good effort here to this main event. They're trying here. And of course, the Damage Control girls, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, making their presence felt, trying to interfere in this. If I remember correctly, Io Sky was outside the steel cage. She was trying to climb up in the final moment. She was trying to climb up on the cage wall. Meanwhile, you had Dakota, who was trying to slide in a crutch to Bayley. I think she actually managed to get in one crutch before she was trying to go in and place another one in there. And then you hear the music of Lita blasting, and you're going, who is it? You're listening to that theme music a little bit more, and then sure enough, you go, oh snap, it's freaking Lita, and Lita came down there. Dakota Kai, actually, let me come back to Dakota Kai. Io Sky is the one I'm thinking about the most. So Io Sky, she obviously hears this music that's blasting on the PA system. And she is still just there on the cage wall. She hasn't even climbed up that high. She's probably maybe about, I would say, what guys, would you say 2 feet, almost possibly 3 feet in the air? So she can easily just drop down, land on her toes if she likes, and she'll be fine, no problems whatsoever. But Io Sky is just chilling, allows for Lita to just pretty much climb on top of the steel cage right beside her, if you will, kind of punching her or whatever, you know, pull her by her little trunks. Lita pretty much gets down on the floor, is now grabbing, you know, really good grab on the back of Io Sky, slams her ass down pretty hard. Sky selling that spot like a mofo. I gotta give her mad props. She sold that spot really, really good. I don't know if maybe that might have been some type of a slight miscommunication, and that's why Io wasn't going initially. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like there was a type of a miscue that was going on right there, but kind of rebounded nicely, I felt. And then Lita goes over with her nice black little jacket, nice tight blue jeans. I gotta say, man, quick sidebar, because I love giving people their flowers. I do, especially my lovely ladies. Love giving the ladies their flowers, man. Lita, for 47 going on 48, has aged gracefully well. She is still nice and fine, thick in all the right places as usual, and most importantly, still recognizable. Now, I did check out enough of the Grammys to know that Madonna was trending, and for all the wrong reasons. God damn, the hell happened to her is all I gotta say. But, you know, Lita, I mean, my God, you know, this is a woman that obviously could have gone under the knife if she wanted to, and okay, let me do this to the nose, let me do this to the cheekbones, let me do this, let me do that, but she hasn't done any of those things. She has truly gracefully aged quite beautifully, and still recognizable. You know, it's like you look at her, my God, you remember Lita from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You know, she has done a really good job and keeping up with her health and fitness and all that. So I definitely got to give her mad props, you know, all these years later, and I can still recognize her. That's badass. And I mean, not for nothing, but you know, here on this show from time to time, I tell you guys about little conventions that come up and everything, you know, special events. By the way, shout out to my people that are just now coming back. I know some of you have already gotten home. Some of you are probably still traveling to your final destination, but shout out to my people that was on this year's Jericho cruise. I saw a lot of the photos and videos that you guys had shared. Looks like you guys had a fantastic experience, and I'm very happy that you did. I know some of you guys had found my review most helpful when I did the write-up version for 401mania.com a couple of years back, and then I also did a video review version, and I know a lot of you guys had found both of those very helpful. A lot of you guys had reached out to me, whether it was publicly or in a DM or an email, and you said, hey, Lee, you know, thank you for sharing your experience on the cruise. I actually am going to be going on the next one. My mind really wasn't quite, I was a bit on the fence, but checking out your review, it had really helped me. Hope I see you on the next one. That was the main thing. Those that kept hitting me up, they were like, dude, are you going on the next one? Because if you're going on the next one, I would love to meet you. I'd love to meet your wife. Definitely will treat you to drinks. What's up? And, you know, I said, you know, I'm not really sure. Probably not. I'm probably just going to be taking it easy here. Shout out to a longtime listener and supporter of the show, Cheryl. When I was on the last Jericho cruise, she actually, because she's done every single Jericho cruise, and Cheryl wasn't sure if she was going to be doing this cruise, but when she found out I actually was on the last cruise, she was like, oh my gosh, like, you should have told me. You know, we could have hung out. I'd love to meet your wife. And, you know, yeah, we could have been checking out Quarantine, Jericho's side band and everything. But it looks like everybody had a good time for everything that I had saw online. So those of you that were on the Jericho cruise, seriously, I hope that you guys either got home or got to your final destination in one piece. Particularly, shout out to those of you that might have been traveling via Southwest, because Southwest, the last go round, that the Jericho Cruise was intact, a lot of us were using Southwest to and from for the Jericho Cruise, and there were so many headaches. And we were very fortunate, because had we tried to delay coming back to the DC area, by an hour or two, we would have been caught up in one of those BS delays that would have lasted for a handful of hours. So we were very fortunate to be able to dodge a major bullet when we did. But for those of you that maybe want to, I will definitely extend this invite to you guys. For those of you that want to talk about your experience on the Jericho Cruise, if you maybe would like to be patched into the show on a future episode, definitely get at me on social media. Let me know. Reach out to me, and we'll definitely make it happen. I promise you. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you just want people to hear your voice, you don't want them to see your face, that's cool. Whatever works out for you, we'll definitely do our best to hook you up and everything. But seriously, it's nice to see that everybody had a good time and everything. But yeah, Lita came on out there, and she's just going to town. Made her presence felt over there by Dakota Kai after she was trying to see. Dakota was trying to put another foreign object in between the cage there to Bayley, pretty much negated that. And then Bayley actually tried to. Bayley, phenomenal job on Bayley's part selling that shocked look, because remember what Becky Lynch had said earlier in the night, which was, I know the odds are going to be stacked against me. Paraphrase. But this is pretty much what she said in a nutshell. I know the odds are probably going to be stacked against me once again with the sidekicks there from Damage Control. I've got one ace card I haven't pulled just yet. Who knows? Maybe I might have to pull that tonight. So she puts out a cryptic message right there. So you're kind of going, who is she talking about? Obviously, she's talking about some form of backup. Who's it going to be coming from? Who haven't we thought about in a good minute here? And if you thought maybe it was going to be Lita, man, did you fucking bet that right? You really should be doing some stuff with DraftKings when it comes to the wrestling there, right? And I liked how Bayley just sold that stunned look on her face. A surprise, disappointment. And look, this writes itself out so beautifully, because if you remember, Bayley and the stories that she had shared when she was coming up in wrestling and everything, she thinks very, very highly of Lita. Lita is like a freaking idol to her and everything. Okay, so this is this is so freaking funny, because as a young girl, what inspired Bayley to really get into the wrestling and all that is freaking Lita. So to see essentially your childhood idol, right, not in your corner, but is essentially helping the enemy, yeah, there's probably going to be a whole lot of things going on in your head and everything. So I love the wide range of emotions, facial expressions wise, that Bayley was selling, as that distraction alone was a great setup for Lita to smash the cage door in Bayley's face, which pretty much set up Bayley to take the band slam there. 1, 2, 3, pretty much over and done with. Lita, Becky Lynch going in for the embrace to pretty much end this and everything. And okay, so when it's all said and done, Becky is good. She's riding high, and this is pretty much it for her. But what does this mean going towards WrestleMania? So is this going to be a moment right here where maybe we're going to see Bayley come out pretty pissed off, very salty, and now she is fixated just on Lita? Or is this going to be a case where we're going to see Damage Control involved in some type of a match against Bayley, Lita? I kind of feel as though the latter is exactly where we're going to be going. So if I were to make a bold prediction to you guys for WrestleMania, I would say look out for this to be announced. Look for Lita and Becky Lynch in a handicap tag match against all three members of Damage Control, or look for possibly Lita. Michelle McCool is a long shot. I'm mentioning her name only because we saw her participate in the Royal Rumble this year and everything. So she's a long shot in my book. But my number one, this has got to be a lock, right? What about Trish Stratus? Trish Stratus has been teasing for several months now that she's pretty much been getting the itch. She would love to do something. She's throwing some names out there. So how's her schedule looking this time of the year? Because I'm telling you, I don't know how you guys personally feel about that, but for me, to see on one side Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and then on the other side Lita, Trish, Becky Lynch, I'm sold. I am freaking sold. I don't feel this is going to go in a one-on-one direction. I don't feel that's where we're going here. Now, some of you guys may be wondering, well, wait a minute, Lee, wait a minute. We got WrestleMania that's now about, 48 days away, whatever the number is. It's definitely in the high 40s at this point. But wait a minute, we got this Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that's supposed to be coming up. Why not just have the match go down there? Why not do something with Lita, Becky Lynch against Io and Bayley? Why not do something there? You could. I'm looking at the Elimination Chamber card right now. And the question, could you? Because, at this point, you've got 4 matches that is solidified after tonight. So if anything, you might be able to do 1, possibly 2 more matches to the point. Yeah, you could go in that direction with the girls, but I think at this point, since you're so close to WrestleMania and you really want to build up on the storytelling and everything, maybe it would actually be a good idea to actually, no, you don't need to. You don't need to blow that at Elimination Chamber. Go ahead, sell it, build up the story, right? Build up that momentum going into WrestleMania. What do you guys think? Sound off. Let me know in the comments or get at me on social media. I will definitely make this be a standalone excerpt that you guys can check out on YouTube, but I'm hoping for the latter. I would love to see a 6-woman tag match with all of those girls. That would be pretty badass, a really nice direction to go into, my personal taste, right? So, not nice little development. Carmella making her return as well, now a brunette. I've always had a soft spot for Carmella. She looks great, man. She looks great. She was gone for basically 7 months, apparently. It's like, damn, gone that long? Seriously, that's a long time to be gone. She was involved in the Elimination Chamber Fatal 4-Way qualifier with Piper Niven, Mia Yim, Candice LeRae. Now, I found it interesting that Chelsea, don't call me Karen Green. Oh, man. I did not even look online last week to see if wrestling fans were calling Chelsea Green Karen. But apparently she had a response to, I guess, those that were taking the time out to say that she was acting like a Karen. And she said on social media, hey, there is nothing wrong with wanting fine, nice things. There is nothing wrong with holding people to a certain standard, certain expectations, and making sure that that's what's being delivered upon. And, you kind of looking at that and you're going, well, wait a minute, Chelsea. Okay, let's just assume here you're really speaking the truth. You are legit perturbed about being called a Karen and everything, right? Let's just go with that. Go with that for a second. Well, damn, if you're not going to do a nice, fun, quirky little spin on Karens, then the gimmick that you currently have right now is, to quote one of my favorite Hall & Oates songs, "Oh, you're a rich girl, and you're going too far, and you know it don't matter anyway. You can get by with the old man's money," right? Like, come on. So we're gonna go with the silver spoon rich, come on, right? Because you're looking at that and you're going, okay, where have we seen this before? Who does it pretty good? Carmella does that gimmick kind of pretty good. Who's fumbling with it currently? Sasha Monet, or Monet, whatever she's calling herself these days. Mercedes Monet, right? She's just butchering the hell out of it right now. Okay, but you can think of women that, yeah, we can, right? So, no, like, really carve it out. Really make it stand out. You actually want to, right? Make it, flush it out, make it stand out, make it your own. Why not embrace some of that little quirkiness of the Karens in the world and all that? Why not go in that direction? She's continuing to entertain the hell out of me, though. I love what she's been continuing to do there with Adam Pearce, and I just can't help but wonder in regards to Adam Pearce, what dirt does she have on that guy? Seriously, I mean, Adam Pearce must have been doing some stuff late one Friday night. You know, I mean, she must have some serious photos or video footage of that man doing something he ain't had no business doing. To have that guy and his balls be in such a vice where he is just bending over backwards for her pleasure. Lord have mercy. That's all I gotta say. But Chelsea Green, she tried to get involved. She actually wanted to be part of the elimination qualifier. She wanted to get some type of a shot at going for the Raw Women's Champion there in Bianca Belair. And Adam Pearce telling her straight up, no, like, you didn't even last that long in the Rumble. You only lasted like a mere couple of seconds, and I'm supposed to, no, like, that's not how we're gonna be doing this. And once again, she pretty much threatened him and everything, because now it was, okay, well, you're gonna put me in a match. And so that's exactly what he did for her. She got put in a match against Asuka, of which your participants that's already locked in for the fatal Elimination Chamber match there to crown a number one contender to take on Bianca at WrestleMania, they all were at ringside, not serving as lumberjacks, but they all were chilling at ringside. They pretty much letting Chelsea Green be aware, hey, we hear the trash talking that you're doing and how you're pretty much talking about how your shit don't stank and you're better than everybody else. But yeah, we'll see about that. Show us what you got, right? You talking all this good game. We want to get a front row seat here. Show us what you got. By the way, speaking of front row seats, did you guys see the news about AMC theaters? If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google that. That was a top trending story for today. I'd like to get some of you guys' thoughts on that one. So, and it backfired for Chelsea Green as she had lost to Asuka. Asuka still going in there with the return of that kind of gimmick, if you will. Looking pretty good, pretty good. Nice, short little match between those two girls. Nothing more, nothing less, right? I mean, it was what it was, right? But the Chelsea Green gimmick, that's what you really gotta truly, hopefully you're sold by the gimmick by now. And I tell you what, and I really hope that if Chelsea is making her rounds, seeing what different shows and people are saying on social media, and obviously to the point she is, I would definitely look at what's being said about, oh, she's kind of doing a spin on a Karen gimmick. I wouldn't be so quick to shoot that down. There's nothing wrong with, I would take that as a compliment, right? Because a lot of people, they look at some of these things that's happening in real time, and it's good to, take certain elements that's happening in the real world and spoof it, right? Do some comedic relief stuff with it and all of that, you know. But we got to go beyond. I just want the Sheila E, the glamorous life. I'm just all about that bling. I just have these high expectations, and you don't want to come off as the typical spoon-fed rich, look at me, yeah, like that only goes but so far. I personally feel, that's just me personally. I was talking about that qualifier fatal 4-way earlier. Carmella winning that one. I was a little bit surprised at that one. I thought for sure that as far as who was going to be coming from out of that with the W, I was under the impression that maybe it was going to be Piper Niven, maybe kind of, maybe try to build her back up. Right? If not Piper, then maybe go with Candice LeRae. I thought for sure we were going to go with one of those two girls, but the fact that it went with Carmella. As far as the fatal 4-way match itself between these girls, I mean, less than 10 minutes of a match. Nobody should really be shocked that Carmella had won here. Wasn't a good match, wasn't a bad match. Some very good, solid effort there on Piper Niven's part. All the girls, I'll give them props. All the girls, it was a nice little decent little match for what it was. It was what it was. It wasn't a all-out drizzling shits match, nothing like that by any stretch, but it pretty much has served its purpose when it's all said and done. Baron Corbin reaching a critical moment on this week's episode as he was involved in a losing effort. He lost a match. I'll remember the opponent in just a hot little bit, but JBL afterwards deciding, you know what, I cannot continue to be associated with this guy. This guy, don't know what's going on with this man, but every single time counts the most. Fourth quarter, few seconds left, time to bring it home, keep coming up short. JBL, he is done with Baron Corbin. He is done with Baron Corbin. And Baron Corbin had lost to, I'm actually seeing it right here in my show notes, Dexter Lumis. Cleanly in the middle of the ring too, I might add. No controversy involved in this whatsoever, right? And I like seeing Baron Corbin get that dose of verbal reality check, if you will, from JBL. And Baron Corbin's like, but where's all of this coming from? I don't understand. Just tell me what I need to do. Just tell me what I need to do to get better. I know I can do it. I know I can improve. I just need a chance. And JBL pretty much told him, you can't shine a turd. Right? Like, goddamn. Like, how we really feel about Baron Corbin there. I mean, it was in that exact moment did JBL echo the sentiments that all of us wrestling fans have had about, well, let me say it this way, because for the record, I wasn't always on the what the fuck with Baron Corbin. With this latest incarnation and bum-ass Corbin, and what was the other Corbin gimmick? Corbin hitting the slot machine and rich man Corbin. I wasn't feeling any of those whatsoever. I've gone on record many times and said, look, the end of days Baron Corbin that was coming out with the cool kick-ass music and just delivering end of days left and right to mofos, when he had reached what I thought was the pinnacle of his career, where he was teamed up there with Lacey Evans and they were getting ready to have that intergender match against Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins for their respected championships. I felt, and that was all around where Baron did the end of days on Becky Lynch. I thought that was the moment. Ride it out. Let Becky and Seth chase after those two for the titles, and let them hold it for a month or two. Go for it, and just after that, the ship had pretty much sailed. That was it. And for me, it just felt like one of those. Well, if you're not gonna capitalize right here for the sake of expanding the story arc, the angle, then what are we doing here? And you're probably not gonna ever get it as good as this moment right now for all these respected parties involved, especially these new up-and-comers that you're trying to do your best to establish. And the ship, it just sailed, and Baron Corbin pretty much has not been the same since. And yeah, this new gimmick that was going on just was not working. Now the question becomes, what happens to Baron Corbin? What happens here? Are we going to see another repackage of Baron Corbin, or is Baron maybe going to be kept off TV for a good minute, and we're going to be seeing a case go down where when it comes to the next round of cuts, maybe, right? Kind of one of those situations. I hate seeing people get fired, but as an old manager once told me many years back, he said, Lee, I don't like firing people, but for the most part, people get themselves fired because they're not doing their job. That's true to a certain extent, but I'm gonna leave that one alone. That's just kind of one of those. Yeah. So, good highlight of the night: Brock Lesnar making his return to Monday Night Raw. And I love Cowboy Brock Lesnar, I tell you. I really, really do. All the smiles, saying good evening. I love this version of Brock Lesnar that's coming out there, man. And I liked him going through his whole Bobby Lashley little skit. It was interesting, though. Brock Lesnar, good judge of character when it comes to dealing with the crowd, because he sets up the crowd twice. He goes, Bobby who? And then he goes, Bobby Lashley. And then he puts another scenario out there and he goes, Bobby who? And was expecting the crowd to chant back unanimously, Bobby Lashley. But after the second time, once he realized, okay, they're not really getting it, and whatever I thought in my head as far as this is going to catch on, it ain't, so let me just abandon it. He abandoned it after attempt number 2 and just kept calling Bobby Lashley instead of Bobby who, Bobby Lashley. I thought that was good. Had the crowd cracking up when he was talking about all the times that he was thinking about Lashley, how he couldn't get the guy out of his head, even when he was making love to his wife. And he made sure he took a pause right there. Brilliant. Just a deliberate pause right there. Crowd's like, whoa, wait a minute here, dog. He goes, 4 hours later, I'm back to thinking about Bobby Lashley. Like, nice save, dude. Nice freaking save. So he reveals that a contract has been drawn up, a multi-million-dollar contract for Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, one-on-one at Elimination Chamber. Only thing that it needs is Lashley to come out, put his signature on that bad boy, make it official. Lashley comes out, nice outfit that man was wearing, by the way. Nice tannish, golden looking vest, tie, pants, nice shades, all that good stuff. Coming out there, and he pretty much said, you know what? I'm going to review the contract. I'm going to have my people, I'm going to have my lawyer review this contract, and everything looked good. Holla at you next week, but not going to sign it right now. So that pretty much was like, oh, well, guess we're done right here. Well, Brock Lesnar did not like that. He did not like that whatsoever. And F5 to Lashley. Crowd chanted one more time. Brock Lesnar obliged. One more F5. That pretty much was the end of that. And that was it for that respected segment. So we're stretching this out for one more week. So look, definitely safe to say that that's going to be match number 5. Could you maybe slide one more match in there? It's possible, but I don't see this going up to 7. I definitely do not see this. I'd be shocked to see 7 matches on this Elimination Chamber card. That's me personally, right? I think they are just fine with 5, 6 matches max, but I think any more would be some serious overkill, especially since you're so close to WrestleMania anyway. And you know what? Look, for all intents and purposes, Lashley, Lesnar, that should be a great match. But here's the thing. I'm expecting for that match to end in some type of a double disqualification, double count out. I just feel as though what possibly is going to be on the horizon at Elimination Chamber really is just going to be WWE's way of bridging things to Mania, that these guys will be locking it up at WrestleMania. So it'll be, just have that going in the back of your head when you get ready to see how this match truly unfolds and everything. Hey, if you guys been enjoying yourselves so far, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button. When you do that, you really help me out a ton. The longer you watch the videos, especially on YouTube, the higher the retention time, more likes the videos get, the better it is for the algorithm, especially as far as suggesting to newcomers, hey, we think you should check this out, you'll enjoy this. Nice big domino effect. It really helps in getting the product out there more to a broader audience. So definitely do that, and thanks in advance. Let's keep rocking and rolling. A couple more things we could talk about from tonight's WWE RAW, give you some thoughts in between there. What else had happened on tonight's RAW? Just trying to think here. Oh yeah, we finally ironed out who all is going to be involved in that U.S. title match for Austin Theory there. So Johnny, hang on, I can tell you guys real quick. Damian Priest, he defeated Angelo Dawkins in his qualifier match to advance in the Elimination Chamber match for the United States title. And Montez Ford was able to defeat Elias to advance. So there are your final spots right there. So if you haven't been keeping track, now that it's officially solidified, Austin Theory is defending his title against Seth frickin' Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Montez Ford. Elimination Chamber match for the U.S. title. So, yeah, you're looking at those names, and the one that really jumps out to you right now is the fact that Seth Rollins, you know, as far as your, as far as like, let me rely on these guys, you know, these are my veterans here. They are familiar with a multi-man, big theme type of match, you know, highly structured type of match. They'll be able to really help navigate things. They'll be the glue that pretty much is holding all of this together. Really, Seth Rollins and then Johnny Gargano. Now, before anybody goes, oh, well, Johnny Gargano, you know, he's never done any Elimination Chamber match before. And it's like, yes, you are absolutely correct. But Gargano does have some form of experience. And I wish I could do the William Regal voice, but he does have War Games experience. So it might not quite be the Elimination Chamber, but still, right? So he should be able to adapt to this accordingly. I'm trying to think if Damian Priest was down in NXT long enough to experience a War Games, and for whatever respected reason, nothing is coming to mind right now. I'm even looking at his match history as we speak. And yeah, because he was only down there in NXT for, God, No, he was down there, 2018, 2019? So he was there for like about 2 years. I'm looking real quick here, trying to see if he did. Okay, he did a 5-on-5 Survivor Series pay-per-view match. That's right, Team NXT, that's right. So he's kind of got that as far as that multi-man experience. Yeah, so he does have that. But I'm just trying to think if he was involved in a War Games match. And I'm not seeing anything as far as War Games go. Yes, he was involved in a War Games match. It was for his North American Championship. Yeah. Well, hang on. He was attacked by a Max character and its gang that attacked him previously at Halloween Havoc. Soon revealed it was Austin Theory. As a result, Priest lost a match with Gargano, winning the title by pinning Leon Ruff. That's right. It's coming back to me now. Yeah, that arc that they had with Leon Ruff, I remember that clear as day, because, it's like, man, did this kid really pull the impossible, or was it just a case of Lady Luck that pretty much was shining on this kid and all that, right? And here's what I find so interesting too about the fact that Damian Priest had won this and Austin Theory. If you wanted to go down revisionist history, I'm very surprised that WWE hasn't done this yet, but maybe they will next week going into that pay-per-view. Is bring up the fact that Damian Priest goes, yo, Austin Theory, don't think for a second, kid, I forgot about what went down with us in NXT and how you fucked me over for the North American Championship there, because I was a defending dominant champion until you pulled that crap that you did. I owe you one. It'd be nice to kind of string that back. I'm hoping that we get some type of a acknowledgement there, because you can just kind of say, hey, this is karma, if you will, almost kind of coming back to bite Austin Theory in the ass, per se. Right, you could definitely make that argument, but that's how the U.S. title match is filling up or has filled out at Elimination Chamber. So, and then for the women, just to remind you guys, we got Asuka, who had advanced in her match tonight against, I mentioned her name earlier, Chelsea Green. It's going to be Asuka, Liv Morgan, Nikki Cross, Raquel Rodriguez, Natalya, and Carmella, who had advanced in her respected match upon returning tonight in that fatal four-way. They all are going to be involved in the Elimination Chamber match for a shot at the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania. So, a lot of good stuff right there. Some other honorable mentions from tonight's WWE Raw. Chad and Otis, they lost to Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. So adding even more fuel to the fire there, that possibly we're going to be getting a Hurt Business reunion. Ultimately what I would like to see happen, just kind of giving you guys a prelude right now, what I ultimately would love to see happen is everything that I had mentioned earlier as far as Brock Lesnar and Lashley at Elimination Chamber, run it back at WrestleMania. But then it is a serious numbers game. I would like to see the Hurt Business in all its glory reform at WrestleMania and just do one serious number on Brock Lesnar. I can see Lashley and Lesnar involved in some type of a no disqualification, no count out type of match, and that's where the Hurt Business really makes its presence felt. And then essentially Hurt Business, Brock Lesnar. I think that'd be pretty entertaining to see go down there, is Lesnar going up against that faction, if you will. That would be, the question is, would Brock be down with that? That's the only thing. Would he be down with doing something of that magnitude? Because I would hate to see this go down in a way where, all this crap that Brock is doing and Bobby doesn't, he doesn't get his comeuppance, right? And it's like, okay, Brock got his W. Okay, now what are we doing here with Lashley? What, are you going to have a humbled Bobby Lashley look to MVP and say, you know what, maybe we should run that back? I would hate for it to kind of go down like that. I really do. I kind of like the idea of strength in numbers is better. That's my whole deal. I kind of like that idea better. Yeah, nothing much else to talk about from this week's WWE Raw, except really the moment of the entire episode, why this episode was even worth checking out. Because you had a lot of, on the one hand, you're going, okay, we're flushing out more of these story arcs. We're doing a lot more to make the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view card full. But this was so as far as in-ring action quality goes, bit low, a bit below average this week, I would say personally. I'm looking at the matches. I can't even say to you guys, well, this match was definitely good. You definitely need to go out of your way and you need to watch it, because no, this was really about key segments. Lesnar with his segment with Lashley, and of course Paul Heyman, Cody Rhodes, with a masterpiece promo segment that I hope a lot of aspiring up-and-coming wrestlers were peeping out there, because as far as emotional context goes, these two guys hit it out of the goddamn park. I gotta give these two men high praise for the segment that they had delivered tonight. It was pretty good. So you had Cody Rhodes. He came out there kicking things off, and he recognized the fact that, okay, on the road to WrestleMania here, seems that there's a little bit of a bump that has come along, and that bump is basically Sami Zayn. And Cody gave Sami his props, saying he's a friend and that he's wishing him all the best of luck coming up at Elimination Chamber, and that by all accounts he feels that Sami Zayn is going to be the one to come out of there as the double champion going into Mania, and that it'd be an honor to face his friend. So got a nice reaction from the crowd and everything, and I liked how Cody said, may the best man win, and he just had this smirk on his face like, well, we already know who the better man is on that one, right? It was kind of one of those type of deals. But great rock star reaction there for Cody Rhodes. Paul Heyman has pretty much heard all that he needed to hear. He comes on out there, introduces himself, tells Cody that he may one day find out in his life that at the top requires an understanding that only weaker beings will find out in life, and that life at the top, right, you know, until you've been in that position where you're the leading guy going into a major event like WrestleMania, right, that's the week of coming out of a major event and everything. He was a little bit kind of like, you were trying to stay with Heyman, trying to figure out where exactly he was going with this, you know, and basically what you were really able to grasp in that nutshell is, you know, hey, to really separate the men from the boys, you know, you really got to home in on the road to WrestleMania, and then most importantly, what's going on, you know, the night after WrestleMania, basically is his whole message and everything. And he talks about how Heyman and Reigns, they've had a lot on their plate dealing with Sami Zayn, the bloodline, but they did want to give Cody Rhodes his respected props and, you know, give him his flowers and congratulate him on winning the Royal Rumble and everything, and they ended up shaking hands. And Cody decides, hey, let's peel this back a little bit. Let's unveil a little bit behind the scenes here, right? You know, let's move the curtain a bit. You know, let's peel it back a bit. And he tells this really, really great true story about his father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and just the level of respect that he has for Mr. Heyman. He's aware of all the nicknames that everybody has, especially his father, you know, his older brother, but for him, it's Mr. Heyman, and it's Mr. Heyman because he remembers back in the early 2000s, the Rhodes family were struggling financially. Between all of them, all they had in their checking account was $100. That was it. And I mean, they were straight up freaking broke. And at that point, Dusty Rhodes was doing car commercials, not because he needed the money. He was doing car commercials to try to keep the current car that he had, because that was pretty much livelihood and all that. And then the phone call came in from Paul Heyman. And he said, look, we got ECW. They're in town. We're doing something with Steve Corino where he's going to be talking a whole bunch of smack. It'd be a solid-ass idea if Dusty would just, pop up, be on TV and everything. And, definitely will pay you for the appearance. And, at that point, you see Heyman, and he's got this look on his face like, oh shit, we're going here? He had a look of surprise, sadness, and like he was thrown off there all at once. As Cody has said, Heyman kept his word. ECW gave Dusty his confidence back. You fast forward, and while he was away disrupting the sport, so there's his AEW nod there. He pretty much gave Heyman his props for showing him the way, helping him along the way. So he thanked him and everything. And Heyman he's actually speechless, and his eyes are actually watering up. This was a legit moment. Look, we've seen a good enough of Heyman. And this was one of the rare firsts where Heyman was at a loss for freaking words. And he was caught up in the moment there because he did not see any of this going down. So, he says, and he admits, he's like, you really threw me off on this one. Seriously. He's like, okay, look, came out here to do some business. And it's like, it's all said and done. This isn't about your dad. This isn't about me. This is about you. This is about what's going to be going down at WrestleMania and all of that. And Heyman, I got to stick with this because this was some really good shit right here, right? Because then Heyman, he goes, well, look, since we're shooting from the hip, I got a Dusty story for you. I got a little something for you here, right? And so, he says to Cody that with all the love he's got, your mind's like, this is not about Dusty. This is about Cody Rhodes and all that has come with Cody fighting from the bottom, coming to the top and everything, from the Rumble to Mania. Cody is not just main eventing Mania. He's trying to get away from, honestly, the greatest box office, sensation, attraction that has happened in the WWE within recent memory in the form of Roman Reigns and everything, the greatest champion of all time in recent memory, and letting Cody know, reminding him, this is not going to be a easy task for just any old body. It's going to take a special individual to seize the opportunity and rise to the occasion under that respected spotlight. Are you gonna crumble? Are you gonna wither away? Are you gonna self-destruct? Because when it's all said and done, Cody, nobody prepared you. Talks about the Performance Center, since WWE was out there in Orlando, Florida for this week for their Raw show and everything. Talks about how Performance Center just down the street, he remembers seeing the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, train and prep stars of Cody's generation, prepped and prepared stars such as Seth Rollins, trained and prepped stars like Becky Lynch, trained and prepped stars like Kevin Owens, trained and prepped stars like Bayley, trained and prepped stars like Roman Reigns. But who did Dusty Rhodes not train and prep? Throws it back on Cody Rhodes. This was just beautiful back and forth at its finest. Point, counterpoint. Loved it. I freaking loved it right here. And then to really bring this on home, Heyman goes, as a father, he says, I could consult you, maybe. Just maybe Dusty wanted for, you to do this all on your own, possibly, because he really wanted for you to step out truly from under his shadows and be your own man and all that. Maybe he thought Cody could be the man without Dusty. Maybe. And as far as Heyman is concerned, he couldn't convey the words and how much he loved Dusty, and he'll tell Cody straight to his face that Dusty did in fact love him, so much so in one of the last conversations that Dusty Rhodes had with Paul Heyman was, Cody Rhodes, or Cody, is my favorite son, but Roman Reigns is the son he always wanted. And Heyman just drops the microphone and has that evil, annoying smirk on his face, and you just go, hook, line, sinker, gotcha! I mean, this was fucking brilliant. I mean, the way that these two men, especially Paul Heyman, had the crowd just right in the palm of his hands there. And you're watching this segment and, you're looking at how Paul Heyman was reacting to this, and you're going, how is Paul going to rebound here? If anybody is a master of rebounding, it is definitely Paul Heyman. So how is he going to really bring this back, right? Because the ride has been fun so far, but it's getting a little bit, it didn't get off balance. It just felt as though we were getting a little bit caught up in reading too much on Google Maps about each step it's going to take before we get to our final destination. And it's just put Google Maps down. You're good. You're good. You don't need Google Maps right now. You're good. You got at least 100 miles to go before you have to worry about a right turn, right? You know how it is sometimes when you're on the road and all that with Google Maps. And it was brilliant how Paul Heyman was able to just take that 1 weak moment of vulnerability and essentially use it to his advantage. I'm sure this was already laid out beforehand, except that part. I legit believe, and look, if it turns out, no, that was all part of the story arc, my God, these guys are just so beautifully, they are just the best. They are masters at what they do. But if that was a rare slip that we saw from Paul Heyman, the way that pretty much, okay, we're going to go for an emotional, okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to serve that back to you in the least way you're going to expect it. So you've got Cody Rhodes, who looks like he's damn near about to cry after what Heyman said to him. And Cody is charging right at Heyman, and Heyman looks like he's getting ready to prepare for an ass whooping, and Cody just rushes right to his face. Whatever smiles were there, whatever, sentimental, like all of that is now out the window. Heyman's like, yo, I'm just telling you a message on behalf of the tribal chief. Cody extends his hand, shakes Heyman's, pulls Heyman in, says to him, Cody says he is just trying to win a wrestling championship. And for whatever respected reason, everybody wants to make it so goddamn personal. And he tells Heyman, look, you may not be paying for it right now, but your boy Roman Reigns will be at WrestleMania. You tell him he's going to pay for it at Mania, because those titles, I'm taking those titles personally. And that, beautiful, just fucking beautiful. I loved it on so many levels. Man, you just take that And what they did with the whole Sami Zayn, the bloodline, this regime that has been behind some of the latest writing for WWE, they have been knocking it out the park. Seriously, they need to be given their flowers. It's some of the best riveting television that they have been producing these past several weeks, and this really set the damn tone for Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. It really, really, really did. Loved it. I loved it on so many levels. So if you did not get a chance to check out this segment, you definitely owe it to yourselves to be able to watch it in its entirety. And what I'll do, I'll see if I can make the clip be available on our Facebook page, because I know a lot of you guys been showing a lot of love on the Facebook page. I will have it be available there, and y'all can share your thoughts and everything. I could probably have that uploaded before I go to bed, but a slow episode, some of those good spots that I mentioned. I won't say this was a below average episode, but barely a thumbs up. I think if you would have taken Lita out of the equation, the Cody Rhodes, Paul Heyman stuff, Brock Lesnar, this definitely would have been an overall thumbs down. But factoring those in, you barely get a thumbs up. I would have to put this, if I'm looking at a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being shit, 10 being awesome sauce, I gotta go with a modest 6. Just factoring all of those in, I gotta go with a respected 6 out of 10 overall. But some really good stuff that they put in there, without a shadow of doubt. So that was WWE Raw for this week. Like I said earlier, didn't put a poll out because I felt, for the most part, I usually have a good idea where the majority of you guys are, and like every single time I don't even need to look at the polling results, and you guys are like practically there. But I didn't do a poll for this Raw, but we will do a poll for this Wednesday's Raw. Let me give you guys some other wrestling related news as we get ready to wind down. I think at this point we're at about an hour 17, hour 16, hour 17. Yeah, so we're probably going to be done right at about 90 minutes or less than that. We'll see how this goes. Hey, rest in peace to the genius Lanny Poffo, leaping Lanny Poffo, who passed away last week. And I know a few people had reached out on social media to let me know that Lanny Poffo had passed away. Guys, girls, when I'm not doing a show, trust me, in between, I am quietly just looking up, when I get a free moment, I'm looking up whatever is going on via the wrestling news feeds. And it's kind of one of those deals where you guys should know the deal by now. And I noticed the people that seem to mention this usually aren't the ones that's checking out the show on a regular basis. But in case you're not familiar with the show schedule, we do shows on Mondays and Wednesdays every single week. Monday nights, Wednesday nights. Monday nights after Raw goes off the air. Wednesday nights after AEW goes off the air. After that, I typically don't come back until maybe a Saturday night or a Sunday, and all I'm talking about is Wild Women of Wrestling. It might be unfortunate for some folks because they think, and I've seen it happen, some folks have popped up in a WoW stream thinking that they'll be able to mention something that's not even WoW related, and then they find out the hard way that, oh, okay, this is strictly just, okay, he's just talking about this one show, that's it. And any news about this show, that's, oh, okay. And usually they'll save whatever that question or comment was, they'll save it for the next show or whatever. So anything that happens in between the shows that are put out between Monday and Wednesday, anything that happens past Wednesday, I'm well aware of what's going on. Usually I will either make a post on social media about that when I get a free moment, or it's just something that, you know what, I may not put up a post, but I'm definitely going to talk about on the next show. What I will say was, well, that's nice, is the fact that some of you guys went out of your way to, hey man, Lenny Poffo had died. And I thought that was kind of cool from the standpoint of, it was something that, I got to be honest, it was something that I was not expecting from the majority of you guys. You know, because I've paid attention to, you know, some of the interactions and all that that's happened over the years. And at times, some of you in the audience strike me as wrestling fans that don't particularly care about wrestling from yesteryear. There's been some examples of that I could, you know, for the defense that I could bring to mind. And that was nice to see that there were actually some of you all that were like, yo, you know, I actually like this guy. I gave a damn about this guy. And, you know, for those that looked at him more than just, oh, the younger brother of Macho Man Randy Savage, you truly have a deep appreciation and respect for this man's respected wrestling career. Whether you want to talk about the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, or you want to talk about the ICW, the International Championship Wrestling, because he was there for a good minute in the late 70s going into the early 80s, or you want to talk about Mid-South, or you want to talk Continental, or really, you know, the meat and potatoes where a lot of people remember Lanny Poffo from is the WWF, going back to the mid 80s until the early 90s, 91, 92. You know, that's pretty much where you remember his debut there, teaming with Pedro Morales. They were in a tag match and all that, and then, you know, his first official gimmick, if you will, leaping Lanny Poffo, and you know, you're like, you know, you're like, I mean, it had its moments, but for me, I got to go with the late 80s and that particular era where, you know, at its highest in WWF, everybody had these gimmicks that was going on. You know, tell us about yourself. Well, in my former job, I used to be a sheriff, or in my former job, I used to be I used to work at a jail. Oh, what did you do at the jail? Oh, I watched over the inmates. Oh, okay. We're going to call you the big boss man, right? You're like, you know, oh, hey, you, tell us something about your personal life. Oh, I used to live up in Canada, and I used to be a Monty. Like, what? Right? You know? And so, Lanny Poffo, legit a smart guy and everything, and you know, they pretty much had took it to the extreme and repackaged this guy as the genius, making him super freaking intelligent, arrogant as heel. I remember as a kid in the 80s, I always gravitated towards the heels. I thought the heels were more colorful, more interesting than the good guys. Yeah, I thought Hulk Hogan was cool and everything back in the day as a kid. I thought he was all right, but I gravitated more towards, you know, the Kamalas, the Papa Shangos, the Rick Martels, definitely the geniuses, you know, Repo Man, IRS, or, you know, Ted DiBiase, Andre the Giant. You know, those were my guys. Those were my freaking guys. As far as good guys go, you know, I mainly rooted for those that looked just like me. So back in the day, I rooted for the Coco Bewares, right? I rooted for them. I rooted for the Junkyard Dogs. You know, those were my guys back in the day. But the Genius, I loved him. So arrogant, so cocky, coming out there with that frickin' cap and gown, just reading poetry, I'm like who better could do this shit, right? Like, anybody could have probably done this gimmick, but would it have had the same execution as Lanny Poffo? Most likely not. Most likely not. So this that gimmick for me, that was some good stuff from back in the day, man. I loved it tremendously. Lanny Poffo passing away at the age of 68? 67, 68? So as far as what took him out, apparently heart failure. At least that's what Dave Meltzer is saying, but there's no official this was the cause of death, this is what took him out. Nothing official just yet. But Jim Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, lifelong friend of Lanny Poffo, who recently was on the Jericho cruise. As a matter of fact, I saw a few pictures that he had shared online. He had revealed, he was the first to reveal that Lanny Poffo had passed away and everything. But you had Dave Meltzer shortly afterwards say cause of death was due to heart failure. So whether or not that's true or not, like I said, gotta wait until get the official, but 68, that's relatively young, as I have mentioned from the NXT Vengeance Day post show. The little bit that I did touch upon with Lanny Poffo, 68, with everything that we know now with health and nutrition and medicine, we can extend our lives much longer. And so to hear that, 68, that's still young. That is still young. But you know what? It's one of those things where you could be the healthiest person in the world. Yeah, I'm now starting to really come to this point in life, which is you could be the healthiest person in the world. You can eat all the right foods. You can get in the proper amount of sleep that you need to be getting in and everything. But you know what, man? When it is your time, it is your time. And a higher calling, a higher power pretty much called one of their own home. That's how I look at this. If there is truly such thing as an afterlife, then somewhere I would like to believe that Lanny Poffo is finally with his older brother and Randy Savage, and they are just kicking back, cracking some funny jokes and whole 9 yards. I remember when it came in the early years there of the shoot interview industry, I remember Lanny Poffo constantly was making his rounds, working with whoever. I'm sure Sean Oliver and them have some pretty cool stories that they could share if they haven't already shared them already. I would imagine Jim Cornette definitely has some stories, more detailed stories. He's got a good photographic memory too, that Cornette. So imagine he's got some really great stories that he could share. But I'm just reminded of the early days of shoot interviews and podcasting. And man, if you were really trying to make a name for yourself, your show, and get some wrestling media attention and all that. I remember back in the day, Lanny Poffo was constantly one of those guys that you would see him. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have been a fan of the shoot interview wrestling podcasts, going back to the like late 2000s, around 2000, I would say mid 2000s into the late 2000s, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. There were certain group of men and women that were just constantly making their rounds on the shows, right? And back then it was one of those type of deals where, okay, well, what was really good for one show and had got them a lot of buzz, got them a lot of attention, other shows would basically follow, and they would kind of literally do their own same freaking questions of what was popular from the actual show that guest appeared on that got the ball rolling in the first place. And it was a strange time back then. It was a lot of copy and pasting. That, as far as the wrestling podcasts go back then, there was a lot of copying, pasting going on. Motherfuckers would act like the questions that they were coming up with was their own, when you could literally read the transcript from, the first show that guest had initially did, and practically 99.9% verbatim, a lot of the wrestling shows just pretty much ripped from that show that made said guest famous, or not famous from the standpoint, but you know what I mean. What made that wrestling show and its people involved on the radar. Wow, everybody's talking about that show, and it was a strange, funny times that was going on back then. But Lanny Poffo was definitely a favorite back then, making the rounds and all of that. Definitely. For those of you that are Kevin Nash and Sean Oliver fans, ask Sean Oliver. Be like, Sean, I was just say, you don't have to mention my name, but if you do mention my name, Sean Oliver, he should remember me. I had him on the show a couple of times, and nice guy, nice fucking guy. I'm happy. It took him long enough to get into the podcasting industry, by the way. Like, I was expecting him to embrace that a long time ago. But for you Sean Oliver fans, you could say, hey, Lee Sanders, the RCWR show, he was mentioning how the shoot interview industry was, back in the day, and how certain people would always be making their rounds doing shoot interviews and wrestling podcasts. He's mentioning Lanny Poffo. Do you have that same memory? Could you expand upon? I'm sure that would be a really good talking point that he would love to go more in depth on and everything. Because nowadays, I tell you what, we really take it for granted. I think when you are a new podcaster that's coming in, and you happen to decide you want to talk about wrestling and all of that, it's interesting. I think it's more challenging and difficult now to try to succeed in podcasting as you're covering wrestling than it was way back then. Because way back then, people were still trying to understand the technology. Not everybody fully had embraced it, and it was a matter of understanding, and a whole lot of question marks was in the air compared to where we are now and everything. So, hope you appreciate that. I didn't mean to go that long, but it's very multi-layered that we had going on there. Speaking of old school, there is a Bruno Sammartino documentary that's going to be screening in Florida next week. Apparently, this is going to be showing at the MPAC on February 9th at 2 p.m. This is going to be down in Florida. The Matinee Performing Arts Center will host a very special matinee showing of a rags to riches story featuring a young man whose family fled the Nazi invasion of their home in Italy, and who would one day become the most famous professional wrestler in the world. Bruno Sammartino makes its Florida debut at MPAC on Thursday, February 9th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale for $8 and can be purchased at MPAC's ticketing center online. Remember, Bruno had passed away. Mr. Bruno, he passed away in 2018. So, this is something that I had been hearing that had been worked upon for a couple of years now. So, I'm eagerly anticipating when I'll be able to get my hands on a showing of that. If you see me looking to the side here, it's not in this room. It's actually in the other room. I had recently purchased a autobiography that was worked on by Mr. Bruno and his friend Saul. They worked on that many years ago, way before Mr. Bruno had died. So there's part of me that's going, okay, how much from the autobiography, how much of that matches up to this documentary that this documentary, I think, has been in the works now. I wonder if this is the same documentary that Rob Feinstein of RF Video. I wonder if this is the same one where he was approached and, you know, they had asked him to comment, you know, do a little interview and all that on Mr. Bruno. I wonder if this is that same one, because I remember hearing about a documentary. I heard about 2 Bruno documentaries. One that I heard about had been in development for about 3, maybe 4 years. And I remember it was one that Mr. Bruno was part of before his passing. So I wonder if this is that one or if this is another one. Kind of curious about that one. Let's see. AEW Dark Elevation preview for this week. Orange Cassidy and Best Friends take on the Chaos Project and Zach Clayton. Meanwhile, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta are in tag action against Ari Daivari and Tony Nese, while the Dark Order face Rennie D, Matt Brannigan, and Crash Jason. Juice Robinson one-on-one action against Jake Chris. Diamante, Emma Sakura, and Marina Shafir are in a 6-woman tag match against Nyla Rose. Or, hang on. Yes, Nyla Rose, Madison Rain, Sky Blue, Queen Amanita, and Hyena Hura. Yuka Sasaki faces Billy Starks, while Powerhouse Hobbs takes on Corey Calhoun. Top Flight takes on the Butcher and the Blade. Matt Menard and Angelo Parker go up against the Boys. Meanwhile, as far as this week's Dynamite goes, you got the Acclaimed defending the AEW tag titles against the Gun Club. I wonder if there's going to be some shenanigans involved in that one. We'll have to wait and see. Bryan Danielson takes on Roosh. And this should be it. I believe if Danielson wins this matchup, he should be able to advance to AEW Revolution to face MJF in that 1-hour Iron Man match for the title. Meanwhile, MJF, he takes on Takesha. Ricky Starks faces Angelo Parker, or actually, correction, we got a gauntlet match. It's Ricky Starks versus Angelo Parker and Matt Menard versus Daniel Garcia or Sammy Guevara, a gauntlet match. Jamie Hayter takes on the Bunny in a AEW women's title eliminator match. So that's what's all going to be going down for Dynamite this week. Yes, I will definitely be live with you guys after Dynamite goes off the air, so tune in for that. 10 p.m. Eastern. All the usual outlets. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And one more time, I love reminding you guys about this. I'm going to keep reminding you guys about this. But if you love representing and checking out the show for on demand and on the downloads, let me tell you something. The best way you can represent is to make sure you are checking out the show through great platforms such as Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. You know, those are really the best freaking outlets. I would personally tell you guys. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Stitcher. We've got our own app for you Android users out there. You could definitely represent that way, but Stitcher or Spreaker, Google Podcasts, you know, those are the ways you can represent. Saying to Alexa, hey Alexa, play the latest episode of the RCWR show. I see that something new of a source has come into play within recent weeks, And ever since I made the announcement last week, you guys have listened, and you guys have made sure you've listened through the other outlets that I've mentioned. As VLC, a VLC media player, that is something that, like, I don't know what the hell it was. I had to research it. And for those of you that aren't aware, I basically had politely, respectfully had to ask for listeners, hey, don't support us through VLC. Support us through these other outlets, because at the end of the day, you know, when we're trying to work with advertisers, those are the respected outlets that they care the most about. And when we have to try to explain to them what the heck a VLC is, you know, we're going to sadly lose them. So I said that like over a week ago, and you guys represented. I told you all how at one point, as far as downloads and listens go, out of 100%, like damn near, I think I said 30 to 40% of you were going the VLC route, and I was like, that's way too high. Let's like get that a lot smaller. So you guys have represented, and you've made it be much smaller. I'm seeing now it is at about 5%. That's a lot better than where we were at before. So keep representing. I love you guys. Apple, iHeart, Pandora, Stitcher, Alexa, our app for you Android users. You could also represent listening on Spreaker. Those are the best ways to support. Spotify. Don't forget, we got Spotify up there too. So, you know, if you're doing the Apple or Spotify, definitely show some love. Leave those ratings and reviews. It definitely helps us out. Makes people be able to discover the show with ease as far as recommendations go and all that. That's it. So we are now at about 1 hour and 40, 1 hour and 41. Let's call it. I will definitely be back with you guys this Wednesday, February 8th of 2023. Get at your man on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Use the keywords, the RCWR Show. And until next go round, I'm wishing all of you all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. I will see you guys next go round. Take care, y'all. Peace.